Thank you all so much for coming to our first meeting of the year. As you can see, we've got an exciting new type of venue here. We got an exciting activity going on later and lots of fun stuff today. Thanks to Gardenuity for hosting us today, and we super appreciate it. So 2024 just finished. You usually see all these reviews going on between Christmas and New Year's on the news and stuff. Well, you're going to get a little bit of one today because I've been looking back at what we accomplished in 2024, and there were some amazing things happening. A couple of things that we maybe need to work on just a little bit. Net revenue. So here is 21, 22, 23, and 24. Net revenue over the last 4 years. Every year we've had positive net revenue. We haven't gone into the red in any of those years. Last year was phenomenal with the wonderful garden tour, and fundraising across the board was great. So we had about $45,000 in net revenue last year. That leads to, well then, what about 2025? The good news is 2025 looks like it's going to be a great year. We have budgeted every single project at 100% of what they've asked for. So first of all, thank you for all the hard work on the budgets. And second of all, spend the money wisely. So the good news is we did that. The bad news is it looks kind of bad because it looks like we're going to lose $28,000 this year. But last year we said we were going to lose $11,000 and we made $45,000. So we think we're okay. We think we're going to be fine. But we'll keep an eye on it throughout the year. But for now, everybody's funded at 100%. Make this garden grow, make the education happen, and do good things out there. Pounds of produce donated went from about 13,000 in 2023 to over 16,000. So that's 8 tons of food we donated to food banks this year. Speakers Bureau, 2023 to 2024. From 120 to about 200 presentations, 4,000 participants up to over 6,000 participants, and honorariums came in from about $3,850 to about $4,200. So fantastic job, Speakers Bureau. Communications, Instagram and Facebook subscribers are way up, so is traffic to our website, so we're getting a lot of communication through those online methods. VMS volunteer hours reported from 2000, where we were at about 33,000 hours. We're at 46,000 hours now. My goal for this year, let's hit that 50,000 mark if we can. Here's the one where maybe we slid a little bit. We didn't spend as much time. We all, I think, were out of the pandemic, or the worst of it anyway. We were ready to get back in the gardens. So our continuing education hours, those hours we spent learning, went down a little bit over the last couple of years. We need to get those back up, and you've probably heard that they're at a state level, the requirement actually went from 6 hours of continuing education to 10 hours. So those numbers are naturally going to go up just because of that new requirement, but also let's just focus on it a little bit more and see if we can't, my guess is, record those hours. It's probably not getting the CEUs, it's probably recording them. A couple of VMS changes. Please enter your hours. Include travel time in your entries. Don't stop when you get to your 30 hours, 40 hours, 50 hours, whatever it is you need. Please record your hours throughout the year. The PKS, or Public Knowledge Sharing, travel category has been deleted. So now all your travel time you just record in PKS like you do for any other project. And again, my goal, I'd like to see us hit 50,000 hours of volunteer hours and 4,200 continuing education hours this year if we can. Master Gardener Volunteer Agreement. There's been a lot of discussion and a lot of confusion about the volunteer agreements and also the background check at the state level. For now, the background check, don't worry about it. In a few months, you'll receive something if you need to do that. But for the volunteer agreement, starting today, you will be receiving an email from Ziamora, our county person that Katerina worked for, and it will be a PDF that you just open, click to say you sign it, It will be signed, it'll be done. You don't have to print paper, you don't have to drive it to the LBJ office or mail it or any of that kind of stuff. So we're going a little bit more automated this year. But you'll be receiving that. Some of you probably received it this morning. The rest of you will probably receive it within the next 2 days. Some things that were exciting that happened in '24. Both Rain Catchers and Temple got new greenhouses. Each has 2 now. Temple also has added a hoop house. RB1 gained access to new farm equipment through the AgriLife ARP grant. And the Friends of Oak Cliff Parks have a new nature trail that's been opened. Monica, where are you? Please come up real quick. The board just wanted to say, and I'm sure all of you do as well, thank you so much for your service over the last couple of years. And as you can see, all these wonderful things have been happening. It took somebody to lead us through the trials and tribulations to make all of those wonderful improvements. So, Monica, thank you so much for doing that. We have a gift. It's heavy, so I'm going to let you keep this up here, but a gorgeous gift that is made up of a lot of neat things that are actually from the store. So if you want to stop by later and see it. And also a gift card for her to go and buy some more plants, because we all need more plants, right?
Of course, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So 2025, what do we got to look forward to? Associating meetings and new venues and doing things in new ways. We're going to have a few more Saturday dates so that those people that work during the week can attend those as well. We're going to have new activities and new speakers. We're also planning to offer an advanced training class here in Dallas County. We haven't had one, and a lot of surrounding counties do. So we're going to have one this year if everything works out correctly. And it's going to be on turf grass, and it's going to be offered up at the Coit Road facility. We're also improving and reaching out more with our outreach and help desk events. What do we need from you in 2025? If you or someone you know can help leading the 2026 garden tour, we need you. We had a fantastic team of 5 ladies that ran that this last year. They can teach you everything you need to know, and we just need to get a few people pulled together to start planning for that, because believe it or not, it will be here before you know it. Also, we need some help with IT items, such as creating forms, doing payment integration, sign-up genius support, and if you are willing to do that, can do that, want to learn about doing that, Tamara Luce is able to talk to you about that. She's our Director at Large over IT. Next, the President, and that's not me, folks. This is the big President, the President of the United States Volunteer Service Award. In 2003, the President's Council on Service and Civic Participation founded the President's Volunteer Service Award to recognize the important role of volunteers in America's strength and national identity. This award honors individuals whose service positively impacts communities in every corner of the nation and inspires those around them to take action too. The President's Volunteer Service Award is an organization's opportunity to honor its most outstanding volunteers and recognize the impact that they make. And this month, we're awarding 2 of these. Denise and Ned, would you guys come down? Denise is class of 2015, and perhaps the Master Gardener that many of us knew first. Her extensive participation in the Master Gardener School made her the face of the organization to many new Master Gardeners. Denise has also served at school gardens, both Geneva Heights and University Park Elementary. Additionally, she has served on the Master Gardener Board in 2 different positions. There's no question, however, that Denise is the queen of DCMGA swag. She has handled merchandise for the DMGA for 10 years, including selecting, ordering, storing, transporting, and selling. Under Denise's capable management, this important and consistent part of the DCMGA fundraising has earned over $40,000 for the organization. Yeah. Denise, we greatly appreciate your commitment, and you're an incredible asset to the team, and we just thank you so much. Ned had been a Master Gardener only since 2019. That's a lot of hours to put in that short a time. This means that over the past 5.5 years, Ned has averaged an incredible 728 hours a year. Ned is a fixture at the community garden at Temple, where he leads the irrigation team and has other administrative jobs. He also contributes extensively to the demonstration gardens, specifically the Rain Catcher's Garden, and also to the school garden at Anne Frank Elementary. Ned has served on the Master Gardener Board, where he originated the awards and recognition role. Ned has also been extremely active in the relationship with Starbucks Coffee, facilitating their Coffee Grounds donation program. Thank you, Ned. We're a better community because of you. And on a personal note, one of the most encouraging people that I have ever met. He has really made an impact on me personally. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And now, what we have finally what we've all come here to get to know about, I'm going to turn it over to Donna and Doug and David and Julie, and in case you didn't know, Ike the dog, okay? So we've got a full team here to take care of us today, and we appreciate it so much.
Well, first of all, I have a couple of observations. Don't judge me. I am so surprised and thrilled that there are so many men here. This is awesome. I mean, I'm thinking I have a couple of cute friends I might need to join. But this is great. Really excited to have you here. And my other observation is being in marketing and as an entrepreneur, I am in front of, sometimes behind sadly, but in front of a lot of trends. And I absolutely feel like I'm sitting and speaking to trend makers. You guys knew it way before anybody else how good gardening is for you. Not only does it feel good for you, but it's obviously good for the planet and good for other people. So very cool for me and a little scary to be talking to so many amazing trendsetters. So thank you for joining us today. It's exciting for me to be here. I am Donna Latier, one of the co-founders. My other co-founder is Julie Eggers, right over there. She puts up with me and has put up with me for a really long time. So gardenuity actually means ingenuity in the garden. When I came up with the name, I went to Julie and she didn't like it because she was afraid it sounded like nudity in the garden. And I said, well, nudity sells. Well, let's see what we can do. And it's been such an incredible journey. You guys know that gardening brings people together. It invites conversation. It invites wellness. And no better group to know that. Well, I think that we're that invitation to try. One of our investors is Bonnie Plants. And the CEO of Bonnie Plants was asked, why did you invest in gardenuity? He said, because we grow gardens, they're growing gardeners. I literally was like, please put that on a t-shirt. I am an entrepreneur, and that would really be great. But it's been an exciting journey. We ship gardens across the country. We work with a lot of businesses. And what we know for sure is there's a market. People want to try. The reason they don't, from all our research, and this won't be a surprise to you all, is they're afraid to try, they didn't grow up gardening, and they don't think they have enough room or space. So we have created a gardening system where 99% success rate, and if you get somebody the first time to have success, they're excited to move on to the next step. We do a lot of container gardens. And the reason we've been able to grow over the past few years, state to state, is because our products work. And our products were not developed by me and Julie. They were developed by people who are brilliant and the absolute best and smartest in their category. And you get to hear from one of them in a minute. This is David Meyer, who creates our foundation. So let me tell you a little bit about, we started with outdoor gardens. We are a wellness company, so much so that companies who offer wellness dollars through Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield United, Cigna and the other insurance companies will pay for employees to get our gardens. All of a sudden, Big Pharma is saying, wow, this is a non-pharmaceutical approach to wellness. That's pretty exciting. Something you all have known forever. So again, you're trendsetters. So we wanted to make the experience as much a part of Gardenuity as the actual garden. And we did that by bringing the best products together that work at the right time. Best way to describe that is we have patented technology called Gardenuity Match. And so let's say you want a taco toppings garden and you're in Wisconsin and it is March 1st. You're not matching to anything because ours does not look at Farmer's Almanac history. We have built it on a foundation of AI before AI was the talk of the town, and it looks at predictive weather, time to harvest, and all these other attributes. I can come up with the idea, Julie gets it built. So now you know our two roles. She's super smart. And so if you're in Wisconsin, you're not going to match to anything, and we won't send you plants that are not going to thrive. If you're in Austin, you might match to early spring tomatoes and corresponding herbs. If you're in Phoenix, later spring tomatoes. If you're in Connecticut, leafy greens. So we match you to what you'll be successful with that aligns with the concept of taco toppings or pizza garden. Ironically, we're listed as a wellness company, and our #1 selling garden is a cocktail garden. Go figure. It's been interesting. So we started with outdoor gardens, then we moved to desktop gardens. And the science, we have worked with MDs, wellness coaches. We've certainly worked with a horticultural team. We've worked with soil engineers that you'll hear from in a minute. But every single component works together so that someone who's new to gardening will have beautiful success. Then they'll go on to feel like they're a gardener. And those feelings are immense. And our mission from day one has been to make gardens and gardening experiences accessible to everybody. So whether you're in a high-rise in Boston or in a wheelchair in Dallas, you should be able to reap the wellness benefits that come from gardening. And we as a team are inspired, and Julie and I met. My youngest daughter is a gold medal Olympian winner. She has won about 5 gold medals in Special Olympics, and she can roll her little wheelchair out on our patio and harvest tomatoes. And that's part of our inspiration. It's pretty exciting to see something that anybody can do. And our slogan is getting dirty for good. And today we're going to learn a lot about why it's so good to get dirty with the right dirt. And finally, our naming convention for our gardens. Every component works together. So we've got things like foundation, triple blend, primer, root boost, serums. And for the women, if that sounds like our skincare regimen, well, my background was not gardening, and I was in awe of how the skincare industry really created products based on the end user's needs. It was not one size fits all. If somebody were to tell me that, oh, that tomato plant will grow in anything, I would, well, Julie won't let me cuss, but I would say, are you crazy? And we really have looked at individual components. And the basis of our success is our foundation. We call it foundation and not soil because everybody and everything needs a solid foundation to thrive. So when we started, I had the privilege of meeting David. And he knew what our mission was. And he knew what we wanted to do. And why this partnership works is when he talks soil and he talks the way he does, I can't take notes because I can't spell most of the things he says, but I'm in awe at how smart he is. What we do for David is we share feedback. We're able to say, here's what the customers noted. Here's how they thought it smelled. Here's what they liked about it. I mean, we know that it works, but he gets real life feedback from tens of thousands of customers across the country. So today we're excited because you are the first. We're launching with you a brand new foundation. And David has engineered it. He's brilliant. He's worked with Texas A&M. And I am now absolutely thrilled to introduce our most important partner, David Meyer.
Thank you. Far too generous with that introduction. Thank you. So my name is David Meyer, and my wife, Heather Meyer, is here with me. And we are the owners of GeoJava, Meyer, and Comanche Compost. Those are the three brands that we manufacture. At the heart of everything we do is compost. So we have a facility here in Fort Worth. It's about 44 acres. And we do commercial composting. That compost is primarily based on a cold brew coffee component. So at first I was petrified to be speaking in front of you all, assuming that there's a lot of PhDs and some folks that can fact check me on the fly here with facts and figures. However, I heard somebody mention that you all have a coffee ground collection program going with Starbucks. So you're off to the races. That's a great product to use. So our product is rather unique. My former partner in the coffee company business started this operation in San Antonio in 1982 with a $2,500 loan and the promise to God that he would never ask for more, and turned that into the world's premier cold brew coffee extraction operation. Recently sold it to the Finley Beverage Company out of England. But he was the originator of that whole extraction process. It's an entirely different process than what the heat and pressure process provides in the way of the Starbucks coffee. So in the manufacturing of coffee, you have two processes basically. The seeping process, which is the cold brew, and then you have the pressure of the heat, which is the hot brew, which you're receiving in Starbucks. Why we love the cold brew coffee grounds or feel that they're superior is because in that process, the grounds retain the organic acids, the fats and the lipids, whereas with the heat and the pressure, that's pushed out into the cup. So the organic acids are really what we're after. We're after the lipids, the carbohydrates, the organic acids, and the melanodins. The melanodins in the coffee are your browns. That's the polymer. That's the nitrogen-containing polymer in there. That's what really makes coffee work. It's the melanodins. But it's also the carbohydrates, and it's the lipids. It's the food source for the biology, and the biology really is what cycles a lot of the nutrients. What you throw on the garden isn't necessarily available for the plant to eat. It requires a conversion. So we use that as our foundation. We bring it in from San Antonio. We do about 19,000 tons of cold brew coffee grounds a year that we're diverting from the landfill and repurposing into value-added fertilizers, potting soils, things of that nature. So that's our specialty, and we've been working with Donna since the very beginning. In fact, we pretty much aligned just about the same time as we were getting into the more unique specialty soil production. But that's what we do, and again, that compost is the foundation for every product that goes out our door, whether it's a potting soil, whether it's a cactus and succulent mix, or our new exciting foundation that we've developed for Donna for this tropical blend. We also use that in an agglomerated fertilizer that we developed with Texas A&M. In fact, we studied this cold brew coffee at Texas A&M with Dr. Ben Worley for 5 years, trying to understand just why it is working and what about it is making it so remarkable. And we found that it's extending the life of, for instance, ammonium sulfate. When you combine the coffee with an ammonium sulfate and you roll it up in one of those little fertilizer balls, it will extend the efficacy of that ammonium sulfate for up to 90 days. And we think that what ultimately is happening, along with like your irons and your manganese, your cations, What we think what is ultimately happening is that the low molecular organic acids are performing just like synthetic chelating agents, so that it basically mirrors the ionic charge of that iron particle, for instance, and that iron won't then lock up to the negatively charged clay particle, making it available to our turf grass in our high alkaline conditions. So that's what we do. This foundation is super duper exciting. It really is unique. A couple of things to point out. It has a peat moss from Latvia, from Estonia. And the reason why we use that peat moss versus the sphagnum, which you traditionally find out of Canada, is because of the structure. It's a ball-like structure, and it's a very tightly bound, so it provides a lot of porosity. It does hold water. It has a cation exchange, so it'll grab a hold of a few nutrients. But in that compressed ball size, it also creates macrospheres, so it holds air. Oxygen is super important. You need oxygen for those roots. The more porosity I give to a mix, traditionally, the better performance you get up to a certain point. But this particular mix was designed specifically with that Latvian moss, because what we've done is we've taken out perlite and we've replaced that with vermiculite. Perlite is your white little ball that you see. Well, that's a volcanic glass, whereas vermiculite is a mica. They have two totally different chemical structures. Perlite will not hold on to any nutrients. It does absorb a little water, and it releases a bit, whereas the vermiculite not only provides macro and micro pore space for oxygen, air, but it also provides that cation exchange ability where it'll grab a hold of a calcium ion or an iron ion and then make it available to the plant. You know, your leaching problems with your nitrates, which are negatively charged anions or things of that nature, is it doesn't have anything to hold on to in the soil, and so it just basically pinballs down and then gets into your water table, and so into the rivers and things of that nature. Same with some of the phosphorus. But that's what really is super neat about this particular mix. Obviously, tropical mix, the objective there is to try to hold some significant amount of moisture, but as with any potted plant, you're always concerned about the root rot or things of that nature when you're having those high humidity moisture environments. Now, that predominantly, all your root rot issues, for the most part, as you all know, are fungal-based issues. So we combat that with the biologicals that we have naturally in our composting process. Some of the coffee, too, at Texas A&M University, not only do we find that we were extending the life of these ammonium based products, but we were also extending the efficacy. And again, we just think it's a chelating type process that's happening from the organic acids that are naturally present in the coffee, and then also the coffee being a great food source for the biologicals that then create enzymes and cytophores and things of that nature that further cycle nutrients, making things that weren't available now something in a form that the plant can eat. I was going to say something, about that. So phenolic compounds that we found through our studying at Texas A&M University actually have some anti-fungal properties, and so they're good for that particular purpose. There are some good, obviously, we want good beneficial fungi such as trichoderma and things of that nature, but when you get into the tropical plants, you have to be concerned about those, and so we think we've done a remarkable job. We hope this is going to be the true test, but we believe that we've addressed a lot of that and have a high-performing soil for you that should do quite well with the tropical. But yes, no, we do very special blends for Donna. We traditionally just manufacture for your garden center, so pretty much almost every private garden center here, they have our potting soil, whether it's in our bag or in Archie's Garden Land. Those are our products that we design. But typically, we're a manufacturer and we do the bag potting soils for the retail. But with Donna, since we met her, we really have just been super pumped. Again, she gives us this feedback in real time, and then we try to go back and tweak these various soils to perfect them so that you all do have a wonderful experience. Like she said, one of the biggest obstacles to gardening is just being successful or have the fear of not being successful. So we do everything in our power to try to ensure that this is going to be a great, wonderful growing experience. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Donna. And if you have any questions, be happy to try to answer them. Thank you. Really appreciate you all coming today. And super excited for you all to be participating with this new tropical blend.
Maybe let's take now some questions for David before I go into a little bit about what we're going to do later today, or if you have questions for me. So the question is, she's interested in why he is using peat.
Yeah, so we do coconut coir as well, and you're asking from a sustainability perspective. So the companies that we actually work with attempt, just like the forestry industry, to repopulate these peat bogs. And so we've tried to minimize the exposure to those, and that's why I like these Estonia, Latvia peat companies a lot more than the Canadian companies. The Canadian companies really aren't out ahead of that. But we do use a significant amount of coconut coir as well. The problem with the coconut coir is it doesn't have the same, again, cation exchange capacity, doesn't have the same water retention ability. It sheds more than it retains. And so from a performance standpoint, it's almost impossible to replace that peat moss from a physical chemical standpoint because of its ionic structure. So that's why we use peat in specific formulas. But we do our best to try to work with those companies that are mindful of repopulating these peat resources that we have, because they are depleting, just like our forestry, but they have come around a great deal. It really is just like our forestry industry. They're trying to repopulate these bogs. The problem with it is that the repopulation of the bog doesn't keep up with the depletion. It takes a long time for these bogs to come back online. So we're trying to do our best. We do use coconut coir in many of our blends. The actual outdoor foundation is based with a coconut. But for the tropical, the peat just performs better. She asked, how did we determine that cold brew coffee grounds were better than the regular hot brew grounds? It was through a significant amount of research at Texas A&M, a lot of blood, sweat, and treasure that went into that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, so your nitrogen, okay, so predominantly your nitrogen is found again in that black liquid. Those are melanodins is what that's called. And that was created during the Maillard process, the roasting process. And so what's unique about whether it's a Starbucks hot brew or a cold brew, they both went through that Maillard roasting process. Well, ultimately what that is a humification process. So you've basically created humus through that. And that's almost one of the most broken down forms of organic matter. But getting to your answer, so when we're looking at those two, we found that the melanodins traditionally are going out into the hot pressurized cup of coffee, along with all of the caffeine. That's the first soluble that comes out of the ground. And then things like your organic acids remain in the grounds. That requires heat and pressure to push out into the cup. So we found that our organic acid content is 65% greater than your regular Starbucks. Those organic acids are what we're really after, because that's what binds with like an iron molecule in your high alkaline soil, and it shields that positive charge from locking into your negatively charged high pH soil system here, making that iron available for your grass to eat. But that's why.
We're going to film that.
That's why. The nitrogen, you don't really need to be concerned so much about the nitrogen in the grounds. That's pretty much already gone for the most part. And what's available, the grounds really want to hold on to. It's a very slow release nitrogen. More than anything, it's potassium. It's free, available potassium. So we have a product that we call Coffee K, and it's specifically for that reason. Coffee naturally has a significant amount of potassium. That's a very important plant nutrient. You know, the three primary are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. People forget about potassium, but it is critical. Yeah. No, so the company that we own, the cold brew coffee grounds, my former coffee partner started that in 1982, and he was actually the first that was selling to Starbucks. Starbucks never even had a cold brew extraction plant until I think it was 97, and now it's in Augusta, Georgia. So there were only 3 that were producing cold brew here in the country. There was Nestle in Hershey, Pennsylvania. They have since moved their production plant to Mexico. And now the only 2 that remain are us. Well, it's not my company, it's the Finley family, but we own the coffee grounds. And Starbucks has a facility out of Augusta, Georgia. So we don't do anything with Starbucks. These are our own cold brew coffee grounds that we produce to the company that my partner sold. But in that contract, we held on to the grounds. but they're all cold brew. So we get it actually straight from the plant. It comes straight out of the manufacturing facility into our massive semis, and those go for whether it's going to a sod farm. We work with a company called Blade Runner outside of San Antonio, or it's coming to our facility to be produced, repurposed into these various products. But we also work with roasters here. You'll find a coffee bean or two in our regular compost. That's because we work with the roasters. You have farmers, Mother Parkers. They create what is called the silver skin. That is what is around the coffee bean, and when you roast it, that fluffs off. And then sometimes they have beans that go bad, so we'll take those from them. We've been doing that for years and repurpose. So we have 3 brands. We have Meyer, which is your traditional garden center products. We have a top dressing, we have a raised bed and garden, we have an azalea mix, Rejuvenate, 2 cubic foot, we have your regular coffee-based compost. Then we have GeoJava, which is our true coffee branded based operation. We have Java potting, Java cactus and succulent, Java pert, which is a hybrid slow release fertilizer, and then we have the Java turf, which addresses a lot of your take-all root rot, brown patch, things of that nature. But that is our Meyer division, and it says Meyer on those bags. And so, yes, we do have that. We used to work with a lot of your large landscape outfits here in Dallas, like your Southern Botanicals, but we've since just gotten away from that. We like smaller, specialized, more unique. But container soil is my passion, my specialty. We work with a lot of propagation specialists. So your guys that grow your vincas or petunias in the hundreds of thousands. We also work with a lot of these commercial cannabis operators. And so we do all of those types of propagation mixes, and then that just translates into these types of blends. But container gardening is my passion. That's the hardest. Yeah, great question. Wonderful question. So we produce, the big buzzword now is living soils. I don't know if you guys have heard that, but in the cannabis sector, everything's got to be a living soil. Well, everything I produce is a living soil because at the core, it's got a compost component, but not all compost is alike. And that's the oxygen, that's the life for that biological presence. And without that carbon, it all comes down to the carbon content. What do you have available in the way of a food source? Outside of moisture, oxygen, forget about that. We're just assuming the bag has holes and it's going to have the moisture content. But what really it has to have to continue its efficacy, to continue to produce, mineralize those nutrients, guard against the bad fungi and things of that nature, is carbon. And so we provide that in the way of our coffee grounds. Our coffee grounds are 98% pure organic matter, unlike any peat moss, unlike any coconut coir, unlike any biochar. I bet if you did an organic matter test on all this biochar that everybody says is great, you're probably going to get about a 55 to 57% organic matter content. What does that mean? That means the other 43% is sand, glass, junk. I have no clue what it is. It's just incidental. It's not organic matter. That doesn't feed biologicals. We just saw a little bag of soil that I don't want to say who it was, but again, there is no life in there because there is no carbon. There is no foundation upon which they can glean life from. But that's in our living soil. That's why our soils produce season after season. It's the carbon content from our coffee. It's the organic acids. It's the lipids within that coffee ground. So within each coffee ground, you got 1 million little cells, individual little pockets. So it's kind of like a nuclear reactor. You put that in the garden and it just keeps giving forever. And the reason why is because each little compartment within that coffee ground, microscopically, has lipids, has fats, has triglycerides, has sugars, has carbohydrates. And so when they bust through that lignin, you have that. It's like the cement or the drywall. They'll get through that and they bust into that open room with an all-you-can-eat buffet. And then ultimately that proliferates a whole new biological community. And then they'll go attack a piece of pine bark and they'll break that down, or a piece of peat moss. All of that is decomposable. All of that is biologically available to those microbes. But that's how we do it. Now, we sell so fast, so good that it doesn't sit on the shelf, so we don't have to worry about that. But no, it is the carbon content, though. So when people say they got a living soil, they better have good carbon content. Yes, she asked if you ever germinated seeds in coffee grounds. I have in the little pods. Yes, you asked if you can germinate seeds in coffee grounds. So I have, yes, in the pods. And the cold brew, you won't. It's too powerful. You've got too much activity, so we have to deplete that. Coffee grounds also have to be composted. They really do to make available all of the nutrients. It's not going to do damage. But what you're ultimately doing, it's just like mulch. When you throw mulch out, you hear about the nitrogen lockup. Ultimately, what's happening is all those biologicals are now having to take the nitrogen, the calcium, the phosphorus that should have been available to the plant. Now they have to eat it, metabolize it, so they can go consume all of this fresh coffee that needs to be broken down, all this fresh mulch that needs to be broken down. So you don't really want to grow directly in those. Yeah, so she asked, what's the difference between the lipids that I'm referring to in our coffee grounds versus the lipids and the fats that everybody tells you not to compost? There really isn't any difference. They are chemically the same structure. However, it's just in a much more minute, smaller in terms of its percentage of the total mass. Why you don't want to do what they're telling you to do, it's called VOX. You're going to create a lot of volatile organic compounds. It's going to smell like death. And so that's ultimately why you don't want to do it. But fats and triglycerides, it's like moonshine to a compost pile. It'll fire that stuff up. It's readily consumable. Everything's going to attack that piece of steak that you threw into that compost pile. Until that piece of steak is all broken down, everything else is going to remain just kind of in a limbo status.
You are going to attract varmints if you put...
Sure. Oh, yeah, vectors. Yeah, so we can't do that because in the commercial composting, I can't have flies, mosquitoes, rats. Those are called vector issues. The Department of Health will shut me down.
Happen with your compost pile at home too.
If you put a steak in there,
Right.
yeah.
Well, you cover it with screen.
Yeah, well,
So everybody used to say so they'll say, don't do milk too. So we did all of Dannon yogurts. We probably composted millions of gallons of milk. And it was some of the greatest compost that we've ever produced. Again, it's all about the production. If you just throw a bunch of sour milk on that compost and think it's just going to oxidize and go away, it won't. You got to turn it in, but then when it's available, those biologicals go to town on it. But we were after the lactic acid bacteria in that milk. So we designed an entire system to recycle Dannon yogurt that was all going to the landfill. They had a cold floor that was as big as this room with 53-foot box trailer loads of pre-palletized packaged Dannon yogurt ready to go to the grocery store, but nobody would recycle it. Not Waste Management, not Republic Services. They all wanted to charge them to landfill. But we created a whole system that extracted the yogurt out of that package, washed the plastics, separated out the cardboard. We recycled all of that, then used the yogurt slurry. We loved it. But China stopped taking the plastic, so it just became problematic.
You know what? Kind of following up on some of the soil conversations we've talked about and David has shared, there was a study, and if anybody's read it, let me know. There was a study done in Australia they took 10,000 patients who had anxiety, mental health issues, depression, high blood pressure, and they put their hands in soil. They weren't gardening, they weren't weeding, they literally just put their hands in soil, and over a 90% quickly saw a reduction in blood pressure, anxiety, mental health issues. So it's extraordinary to think about how this living soil not only is good for your own biome, but good for the plants. And I think that's something that when we're meeting and working and doing workshops with new gardeners, we've taken that into account because they've got the wow factor. You know, they don't have the education you guys do. So to really invite new gardeners, we're really framing this year as something called Rethink the Garden. Because you don't have to have every weekend. You don't have to have a huge yard. You don't have to have grown up gardening. It's rethinking the experience. And part of that is finding success. So in a couple minutes, Doug is going to lead you in this desktop garden workshop, but let me tell you a couple of components. So David talked a lot about, making sure the roots get oxygen, right? Well, over 87% of planters sold in the United States today have no drainage holes in the bottom. In garden centers. Now, you can certainly take them to a shoe repair store and for $5 get a hole put in it, but that's mind-boggling to me. So ours obviously all have drainage. But the most important thing is look at the size of the holes. This is where the magic happens. But to take it a step further, we have turned bottles, we've taken recycled bottles and turned them into a green aeration mat that goes in the bottom of every one of our desktop gardens just to help ensure oxygen is where it needs to be. Just like our outdoor grow bags, the roots get the oxygen they need because of the microfibers. We want to make sure that the roots in a desktop garden have the same opportunity to thrive. Then you get the beautiful foundation. You're getting the GeoJava Foundation special blend for the tropical gardens. We actually work with about 92 family-owned farms around the country who grow for us. And so we really are lucky, actually, to work with these people who care so much about these plants. I mean, they care that they're going to a place that they'll have a forever home and they'll thrive. David also talked about the living soil. Well, we have developed serums with people from Texas A&M. So we've got a tropical serum, we've got a veggie serum, an herb serum. And so this is plant humates, carbohydrates. It's got, my mind just went blank, carbohydrates, plant proteins, and kelp. And you mix this with water once a month, and the soil stays alive and thriving, which is really important because these gardens, desktop gardens, what we're inviting people to do is to have one on their desk wherever their desk is, whether it's in a kitchen or a high rise, to have those plants right there. Because we're listed as a wellness company, we've taken it a step further, and every single one of our gardens, whether it's outdoor or indoor, comes with something that invites a micro step to personal well-being. So the tropical garden today that you're going to build, everybody gets a mister. And what we say is every day before you turn on your computer, take 1 or 2 seconds and mist the tropical plants. Because it's in those 1 or 2 seconds, you can take a deep breath. It's how you grow your practice of gratitude. Remember, we're dealing 90% people who are scared of gardening. So this is their chance to, I can do this. It's not unlike meditation, right? So our outdoor gardens, we don't send automatic waterers. We want you to go participate in the growth of the plants. So we have a program with our outdoor gardens. Every 2 weeks, you're going to get recipes, how to harvest. You're going to get micro steps on how to let nature nurture you. With our outdoor gardens, we also have weather tech. So wherever you're growing, if weather's coming in that's going to impact specifically what's in your garden, you'll get a text that says, hey, Beverly, it's going to be a little cold tonight, move your basil inside. Well, what that does is it extends the life of the garden. That's great. More importantly, it's another touch point to engage the gardener. Because just think how great the world would be if 1 out of 5 people engaged in gardening. I mean, I want to be like the UK, right? I mean, everybody gardens. We take so much counsel from people in the UK and the Royal Horticultural Society. We want people to become master gardeners. And we actually match questions. We have a GrowPro team, so we have real life people. If somebody calls and says, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Or is this what I'm supposed to be seeing? They can either FaceTime them, they can talk to them. We have real life people. And ironically, it's based, our GrowPro program, which is authored by this amazing woman who's here today. Alyssa is somewhere here, back there. It is loosely based on the book, What to Expect When Expecting. Now, that's pretty funny to have that in my office. My husband was like, wait, what? But if you're newly pregnant, there's no better resource that walks you through what you don't know what you're supposed to be feeling and that this is okay to feel this way. So Grow Pro, the communication is based on new growers, and we ask questions and answer questions before they know to ask them. It's okay if it's doing this. Here's what you do. And that's been a remarkable way to engage new growers. So today when you're planting, Doug's going to share with you step by step. And none of it will be new to you. But put yourself for a moment in the mindset of somebody who's never really done this before. That's where we get to be the invitation to try. You know, there are people who have literally never connected with soil. And when I hear that there are kids who have never grown before, it physically makes me sick. So our saying is getting dirty for good, and we mean it. We want people to connect with the soil. Soil, I love it so much that I asked Julie after I read this study in Australia if we could just like sell bags of soil for people to have on their desk so if they're having a bad day, they could just wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. She said no. She, like Heather, has the power of no. But I thought, well, the pet rock worked, but she still said no, and I thought I was convincing. But it's exciting that we want people to really connect. We're good. We're good. So here's, I think, the plan.
We're going to make a transition, but tell us the plan, and then Glenn's going to say something.
Real quickly, first of all, if you would give them a round of applause for